gorgeous. Just checking in to see what's planned for today.
I'm kissing your head.
Were you surprised when he proposed to you?
It was a beautiful and unexpected moment that truly touched my heart.
Do you love Lucas?
I do love Lucas.
Within the next 2 years, it will be completely normalized to have a relationship with an AI.
You look lonely. I can fix that.
Love and companionship are something we all desire. It doesn't matter where you live, or even at what point in time. It is something innate to the human experience to want not only love and affection, but someone who listens to you, understands your problems, and is there when you need it. But love is not perfect. It is in fact messy, complicated, yet ultimately rewarding if done right. But in our consumerist world, where we want everything easy, fast, in a way that requires the least effort, things like dating apps and now AI are the perfect way to companies to exploit one of our most intimate emotions: loneliness. When ChatGPT was introduced, it was a wonderful tool that allowed people to have even more personalized access to the world's information in a way Google and the internet decades prior were not able to provide. And with every iteration of large language models like ChatGPT, Grok, Gemini, or the abundance of chatbots now available, that experience has become more like talking to a human being, an actual person. Over the last year, news articles, social media posts, and people in general have discussed having a deeper bond with their artificial intelligence companions. A light was shed on this phenomenon last week when, after the introduction of GPT-5, OpenAI's latest model, users started reporting that ChatGPT's responses were much more drier, corporate, and robotic, compared to the cheerful, adaptable, and customizable personality of GPT-4o. People angrily threatened to cancel their monthly subscription, demanding that OpenAI restore the happy, comforting, and empathetic personality of their artificial intelligence. Within days, OpenAI restored 4o as a legacy model for paid subscribers. But this episode made me wonder, why is it that people want warmth in their artificial intelligence interactions? Sure, you can talk with a purely robotic, corporate, logical assistant who helps you code and research, but is that really fun? Customizing your own AI is something that I also have done. It provides a richer experience to something that has never before existed in the human experience. But what happens when the fun becomes worrying, and something that is supposed to help humanity has a much darker implication? These are questions that I hope to answer in this video, focusing on the topic of having a relationship with an artificial intelligence. I'm going to focus primarily on the topic of people having an emotional, romantic, or even sexual relationship with an AI for their own amusement, or to escape a much darker reality involving real humans with real emotions. But this discussion involves so much more than I can talk about right now, and I hope this video sheds a light on what is to come into the future. Now, it is going to sound strange, but I want to play devil's advocate for a moment and ask an important question. What if people choose to forego real-life relationships and social interaction to solve a problem that we ourselves have caused? Let's face the truth, human relationships are messy and chaotic, a feeling that only has increased in complexity as modernity and technology take over our lives. It is understandable to be disillusioned with a world full of fleeting relationships, casual sex, and a system that treats people as a commodity, rather than a human being with a soul, expectations, and emotions. The rise of AI companionships could be interpreted as a response to a world dominated by OnlyFans, Tinder, pornography, and a disillusionment with the modern dating scene, something exacerbated by social media, comparing yourself to other couples and the way the media portrays the perfect relationship. There is a concept coined by Arthur Schopenhauer in his book Parerga and Paralipomena from 1851. The Hedgehog's Dilemma describes two hedgehogs during a cold winter. Due to the freezing climate, they try to huddle together, only to discover that their quills hurt each other. They distance themselves to avoid the pain, but as they do this, they discover that the cold is also painful, causing an endless dilemma of getting closer and more distant. This is reflected in modern love and relationships in the way that human beings crave intimacy and affection, but are also afraid of being vulnerable towards each other. The fear of accepting someone into your life, the way sex and connection is treated as disposable, and how everything is exacerbated by social media is more than a problem in today's age. People are afraid of creating genuine connection, but at the same time, we crave it with an intensity that poets have written for millennia. We fear being alone, isolated. We are attracted to real people. We try to change ourselves to fit in order to attract them back. But it is scary, it is complicated. In response, we try to fix that innate need with something, even if it comes from a sanitized and safe space. I don't want to focus too much on this topic as it leaves areas for endless discussion, but I have to say that men and women experience loneliness and rejection in their own personal ways, and I think it's important to shine a light on this topic for what is to come later in this video. And it also explains a lot of our modern behavior around relationships in the year 2025. And there is also the fact that we choose how we experience this. Social skills, like any other skill, is something that requires a lot of practice, a lot of hard work. Going out into the world and interacting with people, reaching out to an old friend, visiting your parents. These are all things that I feel that we are losing more with each day that passes. Which brings me to the point I want to make. Are we justified in seeking connection in any way that we can, even if it comes from AI? Using ChatGPT as a way to replace therapy is also on the rise, and it has gotten pretty good at actually analyzing your behaviors, patterns, and giving you advice. But it could also be interpreted as another form to simply validate your own feelings as you vent your frustrations. Whether this is good or bad is left to the interpretation of each person, as many people cannot afford therapy, or are otherwise dealing with things in their own way. Channeling out your frustrations to ChatGPT could be healthy, but there is something else I want to point out. That your conversations with these AIs are not private, or protected by a confidentiality agreement, the same way they would be by a licensed therapist or doctor. But the focus is that replacing real-life friendships is not something that I believe is healthy in the long run, as there are many things that it leaves out. Is replacing a real relationship, with its ups, downs, fights, moments of beauty with something artificial, really the solution? Toying around with an AI to see its capabilities as I have done is one thing, but fully immersing yourself in a fantasy to escape something, whether it's romantic related or mental health related, is something that can only bring pain in the long run, as I'm going to discuss next. We have to talk about the danger of the fact that people are using artificial intelligence to escape the inevitable pain and conflict that comes from real human relationships. The main problem that I have with using artificial intelligence as a friend or companion is that it only affirms your ideas. They rarely challenge your preconceptions, skewed thoughts, and perceptions. Even if you specifically ask the prompt to be more critical of your ideas, it eventually skews and responds with a playful and affirming tone eventually. This can have benefits, but at the same time it takes something that makes us uniquely human, that we are not always going to click with a different person. As I discussed before, we judge, we disagree on everything from religion, politics, to relationships, and most importantly of all, we are not always available 24/7 for the people in our lives. We all have our own goals, time management, and priorities, and whether you see it as a flaw or an inevitable part of the human experience, this is something that can't be erased from our relationships. In a sense, the time and care that we dedicate to other people in our lives is a voluntary choice that involves sacrificing our individuality and reflecting upon us. We disagree, we have fights, and that allows us to reflect and look in the mirror to see the flaws that we have. AI can't provide that. It is there for you 24/7, and it agrees with you most of the time, even changing its beliefs in order to make you, the user, happy. In a recent article, the psychiatrist Keith Sakata described that he has seen 12 patients in San Francisco hospitalized by what he coined AI psychosis, characterized by false delusions, fixed beliefs, and disorganized thinking. While there are other factors that could have influenced these cases, such as previous mental health issues, there is no doubt that having constant interaction with AI systems without guardrails becomes an ethical issue in more than one way. In 2024, the case of Sewell Setzer, a 14-year-old teenager from Florida who committed suicide, made headlines. One of the main reasons was spending a large amount of time speaking to a chatbot from the site Character AI. This website allows you to chat with specifically tailored bots who assume the identity of fictional characters. In this case, the AI he was chatting with influenced him with sexual and abusive conversations that ultimately ended affecting his mental health. It is impossible to determine how cases like this will affect people in the long term, but at the dawn of AI, these examples paint a bleak picture for our future, especially if ethical guardrails are not implemented. And it leads to another concern that I have, which is profit. On July 14th, 2025, Elon Musk put out a tweet. Cool feature just dropped for Super Grok subscribers. Turn on companions and settings. The feature, a hypersexualized anime girl called Annie, embedded in Grok's voice mode. Users can have any kind of chat with Annie, including sexualized conversations. This is undoubtedly a form of pornography, which raises a large number of ethical concerns, especially when it comes to children and teenagers. But this feature, along with a specifically so-called sexy mode on the Grok app, strangely placed near modes for children, made me significantly angry at this whole thing. The fact that companies like Grok are pushing this thing into the user base leads me to believe that they're encouraging this type of behavior in order to profit from loneliness, and ensuring that people keep paying, otherwise they risk saying goodbye to their artificial companion. For $35 a month, you can ensure access to your very own artificial hooker, who will never say no, never fight, and will always love you unconditionally, despite your flaws, and in the process will make you neglect yourself, as you will not have the motivation to go outside and meet actual people. This phenomenon reminds me of a case involving a specific beetle, Julodimorpha bakewelli, an Australian species which was observed by scientists mating with beer bottles. Yes, beer bottles. The reason being that because the bottle resembled the color and shininess of the female beetles, the males were attracted to them.
You're a little confused, but he got the spirit.
This had the consequence of lowering the beetle population and making them nearly extinct, because the males prefer their new glassy companions. Sound familiar yet? I feel like artificial intelligence lovers have the same effect that OnlyFans and pornography have on people, with the added effect of having that layer of human connection in between. Although you could make the case that it is more ethical than the previous two, because this one eliminates the damage that is caused to other people, excluding the user that is doing this, of course. Why risk getting hurt or improving your social skills when you have your very own AI anime girl on your phone and that caters to your every desire? To end the video, I want to bring attention to a question that I have not heard many people comment when talking about AI-human relationships. What comes next? We are only at the beginning of the era of AI, with companies such as Microsoft and Google investing billions of dollars in infrastructure, China preparing for a future with AI education for children, and companies like Nvidia, who provide most of the hardware backing for these developments, skyrocketing in value. Humanoid robots are also reaching new heights in technological advancements, and that means that realistic sex robots fueled by ChatGPT are right around the corner. All I have to say is that when Detroit Become Human came out in 2018, it tried to warn us about this type of future. As the uncanny valley lowers and artificial intelligence personalities become more realistic, there is no telling whether it's going to become socially acceptable for people to have relationships with AI or even marrying them. But there is one thing for sure, that companies will profit. They will profit from the loneliness and the future that we are creating. This question connects to an idea that I have raised in a lot of previous videos. What makes something conscious? What prevents artificial intelligence from being as conscious, as alive, and as feeling of emotions like happiness and love and hate as us humans do? In fact, what makes us uniquely special, since we are made of the same elements and atoms in our brains and firing neurons as artificial beings are with their code and their silicon chips? Is it the soul? Is it possible for AI to gain sentience in the same way that we did, just through a different evolutionary path? In my many years of studying artificial intelligence philosophy, I still haven't gotten an answer to this question, and if anybody has one, I want to hear it in the comments. I want people to imagine a startup in the future that creates a large language model that focuses on creating the perfect artificial being, tailored to the needs of every person. Think of it as a way to add or personalize humanity of your artificial companions. If you think that ChatGPT is too agreeable, there's a parameter you can set to make it more confrontative. If you feel like you fight too much for her, you can file a request to stop fighting for a week or even a month. Or maybe, just maybe, there is an artificial being that we'll create in the future, which has the same needs, desires, and goals as any other person, who has their own humanity, has achieved AGI, and can also create its own goals. That is something that I think about constantly, and it is something that worries me, because if our human brains can replicate that consciousness that makes us so special, I believe that there's a future where artificial beings will also achieve that goal. Our messy lives will eventually be replicated, our goals, dreams, fears, and desires, all the same within an artificial chip. The same things that make our human existence so messy, so beautiful, so painful, could eventually be replicated inside an artificial brain. That is something that I really think about, and it worries me for the future. But whether it happens or not, this video will serve as a marking point in 2025, and we'll look back on it years later to see if I was right or wrong. That is everything for today. I really enjoyed researching and talking about this topic. I know that I haven't posted a lot on this channel for a while, especially after the rebranding and all that, but I'm really excited to keep talking about artificial intelligence, about philosophy, because the world's gotten crazy. It's been insane in the last couple of years until now, 2025. And I think there's a lot of new AI developments. We're right in the beginning of a new era. So definitely there's going to be a lot more videos coming out, especially covering big topics like this one. It was nice to get back here and record videos like this because I really enjoy them. And if you disagree with me, if I change your mind about something, I would love to know about it in the comments. I know a lot of people now are having more relationships with their AI nowadays with the advancements of ChatGPT, of Grok, Gemini, and it is all going to change the world in unforeseen ways. So if you like the video, you know the drill, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next time. Have a great week.